Hello and welcome to Studioi. I'm Bill Shaffer and I'll be presenting a weekly series showcasing the best independent films in the Midwest. Our objective with this series is to show you a number of short movies that you might not normally see. Some of these films have been part of short film festivals or competitions, and the show today will feature the films of independent filmmaker Kevin Willmott, and we'll be joined shortly by some film and video students from Washburn Rural High School in Topeka. And we'll talk with them right here in the studio. But right now we want to show a clip from Kevin Willmott's 1999 feature film, 9th Street, which was filmed in Junction City.
A little bit in Junction, but mainly in Kansas City.
Kansas City, okay. And it's mainly about your early experiences. It kind of comes from your early experiences in Junction City. Great, great. Well, we'll take a look at 9th Street right now. Again, this is from 1999, and it's just a little bit of the first part of the film. So we hope you'll watch and enjoy a little bit here of 9th Street.
In them days, they called Junction City a lot of names. Junktown, Holeville. Why, you could address a letter Sin City, Kansas, and they know to deliver it to us. Why? Well, hell, cause of us. Cause of our street. Oh yeah, they gambled down there. They bootlegged and them gals did turn tricks for them soldiers, but you're gonna have that in an army town. See, Junction City was the way it was because of them 20,000 soldiers stationed outside of town at Fort Riley. Military payday is big money, baby. That money turned a little country town like this into a boom town. The street served us black GIs of the 9th and 10th Cavalry, the world-famous Buffalo Soldiers, which I was a proud member of. If that street hadn't been down there, we'd had nowhere to go. We gone crazy. It was one whole block of black-owned businesses. Negroes. It was our Harlem in Kansas. Anything a colored man wanted, he could get down there. Yeah, I love that old street. Yes, buddy. And in them days, I loved me some wine, too. I was the wine drinker down there. On the corner, I had a job, see? A role. I offered guidance. I told them how to live. My ace boom coon, my buddy, was Huddy. Huddy had him a couple of wives. They run off. He got on that wine. Huddy was my friend, my best friend. But prime time, baby, was always at our home Wine Old Couch. Wine Old Couch was Grand Central. Oh, that's where we held court. Everything from street preachers to hole chasers appeared before us. We watched over the street, the kids and whatnot, protected and served. We was regular public servants. There it is. Friday night, payday, party time. Soldier money burns in them jokers' pockets, boy. Them soldier boys spread the word about the street, see? That's how the legend grew. Soldiers partied down there from all over the country. Then they'd go all over the world talking about the times they had. From Heidelberg, West Germany, to Seoul, South Korea, to Japan, to them Philippine Islands. You knew you'd been on honored ground when you snapped your fingers and shook your behind on the internationally acclaimed, world-renowned block known as 9th Street.
soldier boys. Play with these grown-up toys. You can't believe your eyes. Soldiers paradise. You can get the high price. Just one roll of the dice. Come on, soldier boy. You the man. Take a chance. 9th Street is a blue street. 9th Street is a cool street. Chick so fine. Easy to blow your mind. If you got the money, you can get the honey. Come on, you soldier boys. Dance to the beat. Feel all that body heat. $10, you'll forget about home. All your fantasies come true. 9th Street, 9th Street is a dream street. 9th Street.
Okay, welcome back to the studio. I'm here with Kevin Willmott, the writer, director, and co-star of 9th Street. Is that correct?
That's
you were
right.
Actually in
I'm
part
one
of
of those
it,
old
Myrick.
men there.
You're one of the old men, yes, which is cool. It took me a while to figure that out, actually, when I was watching it the first time. But I'm always impressed with this film because you did it on a very limited budget.
Sure.
And you had to go shoot some of it and then go back and raise money. Tell me a little about that process.
Well, yeah, that's I still kind of do that to a large degree in many ways. We, I always believe in getting started, and so we try to raise a little bit of money. Usually I get a grant or something like that. I get a little grant and get started and then try to then gain support. I think it when people can see what you're doing and they kind of get the fever of the whole passion that you hopefully bring into the project, and then it just kind of builds from there. The neat thing about with 9th Street was that if I had not had it in a kind of a work in progress state, I never would have gotten Martin Sheen and Isaac Hayes in it.
Yeah, and they were traveling through. You said on.
Well, yeah, and specific with Martin Sheen, he was in Topeka making a miniseries called A Matter of Justice, and I had a connection with him through some activist friends, and I approached him for a little money for the film.
Sure.
And he said, no, I'd rather be in it.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, we can work that out.
That's good. That's good.
So that's a good thing.
Name value.
That's a good thing. So I quickly wrote him into the film, and he stayed an extra weekend for us, and we shot his part in really about 4 hours one afternoon.
Okay.
And so I was able to kind of intersperse him throughout the entire film, so give him a beginning, middle, and an end. But it worked out real well.
Great. And Isaac Hayes?
Isaac, I was able to get the script to him. He really loved it because it reminded him of growing up on Beale Street in Memphis.
Okay.
And but again, it was in many ways it was that thing of the ongoing process of the film. If I'd had all the money at once, I probably would have shot the whole thing,
Sure.
and then that would have
been it. Yeah.
But because it took so long, it kind of makes up the pain of going through all the years of making a film. It kind of makes it up when those things can happen for you.
And this film is a film that really has a message about giving and contributing to life, and that's something that you grew up with. I mean, that's something I think you told me before that was part of the whole reason for making the film.
Right, very much so. My mother ran a pool hall on 9th Street, and my parents met there. And as a kid, I grew up really hearing them talk about their experiences on 9th, and 9th was like an old friend to them, and so that became kind of the metaphor of the film. The winos' lives, the wine drinkers' lives are quite a bit like 9th Street. If you can appreciate these two men, then you can appreciate 9th Street. And so that was kind of the whole notion of it originated as a play, and then I tried to bring that same kind of message to the film as well. And the whole idea of the community being really the soul of a street, and these small group of people really fighting for the soul of the community.
Sure. And now that was partially filmed there in Junction City.
A little bit in Junction, but mainly in Kansas City.
And that was because the location has changed dramatically enough.
Right. Well, they knocked 9th Street down.
Ah, okay. Well, that could
It's gone now.
That could cause problems.
That really set you back. So we were able to find we shot a little bit on 18th and Vine in Kansas City, and
your opening shot.
Our opening shot and we were able to find a street on 24th and Lister in Kansas City that was really an abandoned street. So we took it over, and one of the kind of homeless men that was there became our location manager. He watched us over the street for us, and we, like, for instance, one day we came to the set and one of the buildings had just collapsed and just caved in. And so we incorporated that right into the film. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a really beautiful experience, and it was really kind of what I call our barn raising. We kind of all came together like the Black Amish and raised the barn.
Yes,
so.
yes, yeah. But use your disadvantages.
Exactly.
Use what could
embrace,
be a problem.
Embrace your limitations.
Yes. Yes. Very good. And and then you shot part of it here in Topeka.
Right. We shot. I'm always looking for those locations that are really special. And there was that beautiful Dr. Pepper sign in North Topeka. And so we incorporated that into the film, and some railroad tracks and different things like that.
Okay.
And really worked out well.
Now, beyond this, you did the 70s miniseries.
Right. Kind of what happened was I was real fortunate. I was able to meet Mitch Bryan. He'd heard about 9th Street, and Mitch was a California screenwriter. Okay. And I went to NYU, and so we kind of had both ends of the coast. And he had heard about 9th and my interest in John Brown, the abolitionist, and so we came together, wrote a script on John Brown. That really launched my career in screenwriting, and so we got into the 70s miniseries after that, and some other projects, and kind of moved forward from there.
Okay, well now we're just about to take a look at a clip from your new film, CSA, and CSA stands for
Confederate States of America.
And the premise of the whole thing is
the South has won the Civil War.
Okay,
and it's America had the South won.
Right.
And so you see the film from the point of view of Confederate television. It's like you're living in the Confederacy, you're watching television, and you're seeing this documentary.
And yet this documentary, in a way, is kind of a renegade documentary because it's a British piece. Is that correct?
Right. It's produced by the British Broadcasting System.
Right.
And so they've come after a long, hard struggle to get into the Confederacy to make this film. They've finally been given the opportunity to make this documentary about the entire history of the Confederacy, from their victory at Gettysburg all the way to today. And so you get to see it from.
Now, I'm going to guess you did just a little bit of research on this one.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was one of the things when I typically got a lot of screenwriting jobs that involved history, and so a lot of this history I kind of knew myself, and then other things I pursued and really tried to find details that I thought lent themselves well to what I want to do with it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, this is the clip we're about to see is from kind of early in the film. I mean, it's really right where the South wins the war. It's the crucial point. Sure. And then we do a little bit on some of the films that were appearing later on, kind of, and that's just. It's a wonderful piece of work. I'm very excited that we're showing this piece on it, and it really will kind of get you into the spirit of the whole film itself, I think. But we'll come back right after we watch this, and we'll talk a little more with Kevin about the film itself. So here's CSA.
For months, Southern troops took the nation's capital, capturing the White House. But there was no sign of President Lincoln. In a small house outside Washington, D.C., on April the 9th, 1864, General Ulysses S. Grant surrendered to General Robert E. Lee. The bloody conflict had finally ended. It became the primary objective of Confederate forces to locate and arrest the now deposed President Lincoln. Confederate forces were everywhere. A desperate Lincoln turned to Harriet Tubman. Tubman, wanted with a huge bounty on her head, would be the last resort for a president literally running for his life. Tubman's Underground Railroad was a series of way stations that organized the escape of over 200 slaves out of the United States to freedom. But her dearest passenger would require Tubman's most ingenious plan to date.
She chose to disguise President Lincoln in blackface and traveled with him along one of her many secret slave routes. When Lincoln scoffed at the plan, Tubman, never one to mince words, reminded him of the huge bounty on his head. She said simply, We're both niggers now, Mr. President.
A crack battalion of Confederate troops was dispatched from Detroit to locate and arrest Lincoln and Tubman before they could escape into Canada. Lincoln and Tubman were captured trying to cross Lake St. Clair. President Abraham Lincoln was now a prisoner of the Confederate Army. In 1915, the capture of Lincoln was also dramatized in D.W. Griffith's silent film classic, The Hunt for Dishonest Abe.
Jefferson Davis, on learning of Mr. Lincoln's capture in blackface, termed the arrest symbolic.
A quick trial was convened, and former President Lincoln was convicted of war crimes against the Southern nation. He was imprisoned in Fortress Monroe near Norfolk, Virginia. It was from the window of his damp cell that he watched the execution of the woman who runaway slaves called Moses.
Tubman knew on her capture that she would be executed for her many crimes against the South.
I'd rather die fighting to free others from this evil nation than live within it another minute as a slave.
Oh, there were many who were clamoring for Mr. Lincoln's execution also, but President Davis understood that sparing Lincoln's life would ease tensions in the North. A wise man, he was already looking to the future.
After serving 2 years, a frail and gaunt Lincoln was granted a full pardon and exiled to Canada. He never returned to his homeland. In June 1905, shortly before his death, he granted a rare interview from Montreal.
I failed to see it. The abolitionists understood what the consequences would be. They knew it was always about the Negro, but I was blind. Now I see what our once great country has become. I only wish that I had truly cared for the Negro, truly cared for his freedom, for his equality. I used him, and now I am used. Now I too am a Negro, without a country. I pray that someday the colored people of Confederate America will be free, a nation framed in inequality and stained with the blood of injustice cannot stand. I only regret that I shall not live to see it fall.
When Mr. Lincoln died in exile in Canada, he was a lonely, bitter man, disgraced, abandoned, almost entirely forgotten by history. Today, he's only remembered as the man who lost the War of Northern Aggression.
Over there, send the word over there, that the Reds are coming, the Reds are coming.
Join the Confederate States Air Force. What a great way of life. Paid for by the CS Air Force.
Now notice that this film is basically set up as a documentary or a mockumentary because it even contains commercials. Unlike Ken Burns' Civil War, which we aired here on PBS, this film is done like a televised, a commercial documentary. Tell me a little bit about the idea for all of this. Reminds me a little of the War of the Worlds type broadcast,
right.
Where you're watching it live and this kind of thing. Tell me about that.
Well, part of what I wanted to do was to try to bring into the real total universe of the CSA. And so I thought it would be really interesting to use products that existed or would have existed, in my opinion, in that world. There was a lot of products that were gotten rid of after the Civil Rights movement in particular. And so some of those products still exist today, but most of them have been kind of, have vanished. And so what I did was I tried to incorporate those into the film, and these would have been the products. Without the Civil Rights movement, these products would have continued to exist.
And I was under the impression this was kind of a work in progress, but you do say it's pretty much finished.
It's pretty much finished. Yeah, we've got just a couple. We've got one more commercial we've shot that we're going to be adding soon, but pretty much it's a done deal.
Excellent. The other thing I wanted to ask was, you got that footage of Lincoln looks so authentic, and then you said, in the lab they even asked about that.
Yeah, it was fun when when the lab saw the footage, they asked us, "Where'd you get this?"
Yeah.
And we had fooled them even, I think. And so we were able to find a gentleman, Arlo Casper, who just looks amazingly like Lincoln, and we put him in a Victorian house, and he's Lincoln. Lincoln as an old man.
And when he talks, his voice is out of sync, which I think is a great touch. I mean, that's really the way
we try to get
do
that old style of where the sound wouldn't quite sync up.
And there are lots of styles in this film, though. I mean, I noticed not only in these particular clips we just showed, but also the later on you've got some footage where you're talking some real grainy. Looks like you'd shot it on videotape or something, old videotape, and a lot of stuff you really have to be very conscious of.
Matt Jacobson did a lot of the cinematography and Tim DePape as well, and we were able to try to capture each of the looks as much as possible. Whatever the look called for, we shot it on. Like the high-end commercials, like we have an insurance commercial for Confederate Life. We shot on 35 millimeter. We have a cigarette commercial. We shot that on 35 millimeter. So those things, whatever was really the appropriate medium, we always tried to use.
Well, we're going to look at two more of those commercials right now, which were used in the production of CSA, and we just want you to see them because they've kind of involved some of the other people on the program. We're going to interview a little later, but we're going to look right now at two commercials that are later in the film of CSA. Take a look.
Run away, run away. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when we find you? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when we find you? Run away, run away, run away, run away. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when we find you? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when we find you? Run away, run away.
Watch Runaway tonight at 10:30.
I just gave this place a good scrubbing, but everything is still dull as dishwater. Miss Ann's gonna fret something fierce.
Hi.
Who is yo?
I'm Goldie. I'm Dusty. We're the Goldust twins.
Are you a slave to housework? Let the Goldust twins emancipate you from the burdens of cleaning. It gets everything shining like new.
Thank you, Goldie and Dusty.
Don't be a slave. Get Goldust today.
Okay, Kevin, tell me a little bit about what went into those commercials. How were they planned and how were they done?
Sure. Like with the Goldust twins in particular, actual product that exists in the United States of America. Yes. And the actual ad, one of the actual ads they used, I took that from one of their actual ads and changed a few little things, but the whole idea of, emancipate yourself from the burdens of cleaning, that was from their actual ad. And so always try to connect as much as possible with, many ways the movie is about what is as much as it is what if. Mm-hmm. And so that's where the Runaway commercial comes from. In many ways when you watch shows like Cops, you see, you get to kind of see the injustice of things as well. And so I wanted to try to show, try to connect as much of our lives in the film as much as we could, and to try to make it have another layer of reality.
Sure, excellent. Well, some of the items later on, I don't remember if they're at this point or later on in the show, very racist items. I mean, you look at them, and on the end of the show, you mentioned how they were real. Right. Some of them, some were real products.
Right. The Coon Chicken Inn, was, and you always tend to think these places are products are all Southern. But actually, all of them in the film are northern products. Yeah. And so in many ways, that was part of the idea of the film, too, how the influence that in many ways that the South did win the Civil War, that they perhaps lost on the battlefield, but they won the peace. Kansas is an abolitionist state, a free state, but after the war, it becomes segregated, and so how did that happen? And so part of one of the big themes of the movie is the reunion, is how North and South, how when they came together, slavery had to be removed from the issue. And so the movie tries to put slavery's centerpiece back to the cause of the Civil War, and at the same time trying to do it in a way where people can find it entertaining and actually learn a little something at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I'm impressed. I certainly learned a lot while I was watching it. It's one of those shows that I've got to congratulate you on and say thank you for just making it. I mean, I'm really proud of you for doing this. This is a great piece of work, and I hope it goes a long way for you. Again, I hope it's a feature film that you can get out there and get shown in different places. But we'd love to have it on PBS.
Well, that would be great too. That'd be great too.
If that's possible.